home during lunch, having a smoke, some Presbyterian mixture, and then I had an old cigar from Kevin Brackett at the Pipe Club. And maybe I just can't commit. But I chopped a little chunk off, broke it up, and so it's in the bottom of this pipe, which is a Tom Howard. These are kind of an unappreciated 40s, 50s, maybe into the 60s pipe. Kind of custom built-ish rustication. This one is quite restrained, actually, which is why I like it. Some of them are theatrically over the top. You know, they're like this huge saucer of briar. Tom Howard imported briar. So, yeah, I mean, this is just a billiard, you know, with kind of thick walls. But I think you can look Tom Howard up on Wikipedia, maybe. And he was a radio entertainer of the period, a big guy. Who knows? Perhaps not unlike our current chief executive. So I'm just having a smoke. Green, green, green spring. It's great. It may rain today. My brother texted me from Denver, said, 12 hours of heavy rain, how do you do it up there? Well, we don't usually get heavy rain. You know, it's usually what we call Seattle rain is like a heavy mist. Kind of continuous, that's the problem with it, you know, and it's like can go for, what was our record, 30 days or something of rain. But it can be pretty gray, dark, and overcast. And so that's more than the wet is kind of the problem for the psyche. But we're coming up on summer when it can go for a long time without raining and be super, super nice. Yeah, I haven't hit that cigar leaf yet. And that's another thing about cigars. They're kind of nicotine heavy oftentimes. And I am kind of nicotine averse. I'm kind of sensitive to nicotine. So small doses are good. I do like cigar mixtures, though. I should order some more. Get some more in here. Because I like those. But in the meantime, I'll just make my own. So the neighbor, this last Saturday at midnight, I think he was driving home, and so his headlights illuminated a bear, pretty big bear actually, right at the head of the trail where I walked down through the woods to get to work. So Yogi is out there. And the thing about my knee is I'm just not as mobile as I was. I mean, I'm hoping it'll get better. I did some physical therapy. I didn't take it as seriously as I probably should have. But I just don't move as quickly. Meaning, if I had to run, there's no way. And I do carry one of those little Kimber pepper blaster 2-shot pepper spray things. Kimber is a handgun manufacturer in New York City, of all places you wouldn't expect. And so they have that a little pepper blaster that fits real nice in a pocket. So I have one of those in my Filson field jacket. But that's kind of too heavy once it gets warm like this. So I'm not quite. I bet I should carry some pepper spray. Yeah, can't carry a gun. My place of work prohibits having a gun on your person. So unless you're a cop, and I get that, that's fine. I mean, most workplace instances of violence are not from cops, but from some disgruntled gun-carrying employee. So that's not a bad policy. But walking down the trail, I'm going to be a little more trepidatious than I was. We don't want to run into Yogi. No, we do not. It's just feeling a little wet. And honestly, every Tom Howard that I've ever smoked, which I don't have a lot of them, like I say, they're just too much for me. But as I remember, they all kind of smoke a little wet. And why is it? It's, wetness or bad smoking of a pipe can usually be remedied for me by opening up the airway to 530 seconds or 4 millimeters, and then cleaning up the airway in the bit. But sometimes it's a matter of turbulence in there, and so there's turbulence, and the smoke circles around and cools and maybe drops a little moisture, and then it feels like a wet smoke. So not much you can do about that. And of course, Peterson and others have taken advantage of that with system pipes that have that chamber sort of enlarged down there, so the smoke goes in and kind of circles around, I think, and cools down a little bit and then drops moisture in there. So, and a filter is going to be your best choice for a wet pipe, but I just never have gotten into filters. I do need to get an electrician. Everything I own is broken at the moment. It has something broken. I did manage to drill through that broken bolt that is holding the fuel cut-off solenoid, the fuel, I think that's what it's called, on the side of the P7100 pump on the Cummins. Hopefully I didn't do damage, although that's kind of my way. So before I head back to work, I'm going to see if I can't pop a extraction tool in there. It's just all very constrained space-wise. And then kind of work it out. I have some left-handed drill bits too, that might be the solution there. So I'll try that. But there's all kinds of other stuff on the truck and yeah, just everything. Of course, I like this old stuff that has a lot of miles on it. Even the Fiat, which was my little gem of reliability. Let me turn that off. Okay. Yep. A phone call. I'm not ready to go back to work yet. So I usually drive with the headlights on rather than just the daytime running lights. And I noticed that when I stopped the car, they were staying on. I thought, well, it has that feature where you can set it to leave the headlights on for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, or 90 seconds. So you can get in the house and have a little light. I think it's called Go Home feature or something, which I've never used. But I thought, well, maybe that got triggered somehow, you know. But no. Um, so apparently on one of the circuit boards that controls um, it's the body control module, apparently. I mean, it's all CAN bus. Everything's interrelated. It'll tell you if your door is open or the hatch or you have a tail light out or, you know, I mean, it's just like totally wired. So, and like every modern car, honestly. And it has been like super duper reliable. And it's kind of nice to know when you have a burned out tail light, you know. But the headlights were staying on. And so luckily the battery is just like, boom, right there. It's not hidden away. It's not under the back seat for weight control as some cars used to be, you know, little cars. So it's easy to get to. And there's a nut, and I just undo the nut, slip not the whole battery cable unit, but the one that feeds the body control module, which is a circuit panel about the size of a paperback book, 2 layers apparently behind the fuse box in the engine compartment. And there's a solenoid that is soldered in and then coated with plastic to weatherproof it. But it's that solenoid that, or no, it's a relay. It's a relay. And apparently they had a bad batch of those. And so, I mean, it has 80,000 miles. It's a 2013. Never had a problem with it. But I like to keep things for a long time and kind of use them up. But you pay the price for that. And especially these days with electronics. I was thinking with electronics, it might be easier because, you know, in my OBD sensor, onboard diagnostic sensor, you bought it on Amazon, plug it in, Bluetooth to your phone to an app that you download for free. And it's not showing a code. So it's not recognizing that relay is bad. But, you know, it's just a matter of pulling parts out and replacing them rather than rebuilding an engine or something like that. But I'm sure that body control module is going to be expensive. I haven't looked it up yet. But so apparently people were talking about, well, it's not that hard to scrape the plastic off, and then you desolder it, and then you get a new relay and you solder it back in. I'm not sure I'm really up for that. In the meantime, I'll just have to pull the little electrical connector off the battery. But that only goes for so long. I mean, the truck had a similar thing where it would just discharge its 2 big batteries. Didn't know why. Took it in, a mechanic, he said, I don't know, you know. So, turns out it was a Kenwood aftermarket radio that was in there. And there was something about that was discharging slowly, but it would do it. You know, I don't drive that truck that much. So, you'd come out and the batteries would be flat. Well, that's no good. So, to combat that, I put in a boat switch, you know, one of those, because it has 2 batteries. So a 1, 2, both, and off. It's like this big rotary switch. And I've got a boat, so I was kind of familiar with those. And I had one lying around. So I mounted it on the inside of the fender, lots of room in there. And now, if I were to leave for a while, I would just turn that to off. And I switched out the radio, and that problem's gone. But you could make it truly theft-proof by turning that switch to off. Nobody would ever expect that to be there. So there's unfortunately no room in the Fiat engine compartment for much of anything. So we'll see what a body control module costs, and then the labor to install it. And who would do it? You know, that's another thing. Mechanics are kind of scarce these days, actually. Sound like an old guy, don't I? One of my coworkers is having some electrical stuff done, and on his house, and so he got some bids, and the low bid was $250 an hour, $250 an hour, for them to come in and work. That's significant. That'll drive up inflation. Forget about eggs. And then people have these new vehicles, and you know, that's great. Even more electronics, but they don't keep them forever. You know, I guess if you trade it in kind of regularly, and you buy a car that has good trade-in value, you know, a Toyota, Honda, Subaru, Lexus, you know, any of those. But if you buy a Fiat, forget about it. That's one reason I bought it. And you know, how many years ago was that? Because it was so cheap. And it has really been a good car. So, damn those bad relays. But I guess maybe you wouldn't know about that until down the road. It is a known problem, though. So, I'll have to deal with that. And everything else just has all these problems. So you can't dwell on it. You have to just kind of, you know, it's kind of depressing when you're laying in bed at night thinking, you know, what has problems, what doesn't. It's just like, but they're my choices that I made, you know, to use old stuff. He is so persistent. I'm not going to answer. So, yeah. You make your choices, you live with those choices. And I have, and I'm usually really fine with that. But I am thinking about getting rid of the Dodge, though. Because it's just kind of like one thing after another, you know. And I have even thought about getting rid of the boat because I'm just not using it. I'm just not really mobile enough to do much with that. So, and I hate to do it. I mean, it's like you have this stuff and it gives you the capacity to have fun and do things. But I've let work become overwhelming just to get stuff done. But I really enjoyed that too. So, I don't know. Decisions will have to be made. And mortgage, wow, mortgage has doubled in the last 3 or 4 years. So instead, we can just have a smoke. The broken stuff remains broken, but, you know, the stuff runs. It's like the car, it runs great. It just has this little issue. And once I get that bolt extracted, the truck will run great until something else fails, which it always does on that. And I naively had the noble thought that, well, when this stuff breaks, I'll rise to the occasion and fix it, you know. I'm not a natural born mechanic. I'm kind of a problem solver, but, you know, you're usually good at something by the third time you do it. The first time's a train wreck. And, you know, this big stuff is just like pretty expensive, so I don't know. But you hate to buy a new car either. I mean, that's going to be what the average price of a new car is now pushing $50,000. $50,000. I'm ethically opposed to that. However, little Ford Maverick hybrid 4x4 kind of sounds pretty good, but that would be $35,000. So, oh yeah, it's just sitting around. Let's spend it. And I hate to be in debt. So, I guess that's not going to happen. I don't think I've hit the cigar leaf yet. Probably not. It's way down there. Finger tamper. How do you guys with other tampers do it? I mean, it's like having, I shouldn't probably say this, having sex with an oven mitt or something. You know, you can't feel anything. With your bare finger, you reach in there, you feel what's on the sides that hasn't burned, and you kind of scrape that off and knock it down. You feel how hot it is in there. It's not ouch, it's just, oh yeah, that's warm. Oh, that's where the cherry is down there. And it does kind of soot up your finger, I will say. But you just clean your finger off, you're good. Finger tamping, it just, it's one of those simple things that just makes sense to me. Okay, I'll put a picture up of the bear. I haven't checked the game cameras for a while, so we'll see. I don't know if there's anything interesting from the last round. But the bear picture was pretty good. So, and I'll answer this phone call. And then I'll be back at work. So I had a doctor's appointment yesterday. See my hat? Yeah. And it was a new specialist, so you have to fill out the paperwork. And the nurse was in there, and she said, "So do you smoke?" And I know you all have a strategy for this, right? It's either, hell yes, I smoke. I wish I smoked more. For me, I just want to be honest. So the choices were like rarely, often, more than 2 packs a day, something crazy like that. It was like, oh my God. So I said to her, well, I smoke a pipe, and I smoke socially. So, and this is social smoking for me, by the way. This is having a conversation, honestly. It's kind of weird, modern social media stuff. But I said I smoke socially, and a pipe is a great way to, for guys who get together, to be doing something which stimulates conversation. I think women don't need that. They can just sit there and talk. And that's great. That's a great social skill for them. I think a lot of men aren't, they kind of need to keep their hands busy, or that part of their brain busy. I don't know. And then you can have a great conversation. So she said, "Oh, that's really cool." So I said, yeah, pipe smoking, is pretty niche. She said, yeah, I don't know anybody who smokes a pipe these days. We didn't talk about her grandpa and how she loved the smell of cherry tobacco, which is usually the conversation where that goes. But she was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. I like that. So I could have said, well, I smoked clove cigarettes laced with crack, and she might have said, oh, that's really cool. But she was pretty much of a straight shooter, so I don't think she would have said anything positive, if she didn't feel it. So anyway, I thought that was kind of fun. And I know everybody deals with that. It's like, what do you say? Are you marked forever as a smoker, and so you're going to be charged more for your health care or whatever? I don't know. I mean, I honestly just don't smoke that much. Like, this is the first time since last weekend, and again, that was social smoking with a buddy of mine, and I don't know, I just don't, it's a social thing for me. So, and like I said, if I was addicted to nicotine, I'd be off it like crazy. I just wouldn't do it. But I don't feel like I am. So, and am I fooling myself? Maybe. But anyway, it can be 2 weeks and I won't smoke if I don't have anybody to smoke with. So making these videos kind of is a way to have a pipe, because I'm social smoking. Yeah. Everybody does it different. Now I'm getting down to that tobacco leaf, I think. So speaking of social media, there's a channel I've discovered on YouTube that I really like. It's a woman who grew up in Russia and then moved to the U.S. about 20 years ago. And if you have any interest in Russian, trying to understand Russia, it seems to me like a really good channel. I really like it. So, Elvira Berry, I'll put the link down below. And yeah, she's really good. Very common sense. And I don't know. I mean, it's just, the more you understand about a place and a people, the better you can just understand, which I find useful. So social media, yeah. It's how I smoke mostly. So thank you for smoking.